If you want to be better, you surround yourself with the people that have the things you don't have. I had achieved all these things and I was like, what's next?
And then be able to stand in the room.
To be able to stand in the room and say that just because it's been done this way always doesn't mean it's the right way. Knowing I had done the work, knowing I'm good at my job.
If you can't find it, go create it.
Ultimately, when you help yourself, you're helping everybody else around you. I just want to welcome you guys to the Sweet House Podcast. It is also the Lord's house today because that is the only reason why any of this is possible. And I just would love for everybody in this room to bow your heads and close your eyes so that we can give thanks to baby Jesus that he has brought us all here today to meet new friends and to leave here with a stronger vision. So let's get to it. I'm going to not cry about this, but I'm so emotional today. So, dear God in heaven, we just want to say thank you so much for another day. I just want to say I am overjoyed and so blessed to be surrounded by so many incredible women. And I hope that today we are able to pour into each other through your word, God. In Jesus' name, amen. And we made it. Now it's time to party because you can party in the Lord's house too. Hey. So the secret doesn't leave the room because I'm not telling the internet yet, but I am 7 weeks pregnant. And I'm still shook. Mr. Sweet is over in the corner. And as Mallory Irvin says, he's in his gold chain. And his Memphis Grizzlies hat. The brand is named after Mr. Sweet, and then I took over and ran with it and turned it into what it is today. So thank you, Mr. Sweet. I love you.
I love you, baby. I love you.
I am in season 4. And I could never have imagined when I started it that I would be in season 4. And I'm just super excited that I've been able to make it this far. So I wanted to celebrate with a live podcast, and we're going to get to it. So my first guest is Emily Trapani, and she is the head of sales for Google Fiber. And I'm going to welcome you on to the gold couch. Come on up here. Emily is my lioness, and she is a mother to 4 cubs, and she is a wife to a pretty loud roar as well. And so I had to have Emily come on the podcast, not because of her position as head of sales for Google Fiber, but because she has become such a really good friend to me as well, and a fellow woman in business who understands corporate and also entrepreneurship, which many of you guys know I have hustled both like nobody's business for over a decade now. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Let's get this show on the road. So I want to hop into our first question because we're going to talk about thriving in corporate, motherhood, and leadership.
Let's do it.
Which is like all intertwined. It's a trifecta of who you are and who a lot of us in this room are. Mm-hmm. So what's been your biggest win as a woman thriving in corporate America?
Yeah, I think if you can get to a place where what you love to do, what you're uniquely good at, and what the business needs you to do all at the same time, that is the best place to be. It took me a while to get there. I feel that way in this role and in a couple of recent roles that I've had. But it takes like self-discovery to find out what you really want to do, what you like, what you don't like. And you might not like something because you're not good at it yet. So you got to give yourself time, or realize like you don't have to be everything, learn everything, be the best at everything. You can lean into what's uniquely yours and then hire out for the other stuff that you're not great at. But aligning those 3 things allows you to be like so happy, and it feels so fun even when it's really hard. It's really hard a lot of the time, but then it feels like a hobby and not so much like work.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think you do a really good job of championing people who are there to work at Google, but you also allow people to enjoy who they are as creatives and entrepreneurs, which is why you and I thrive, because you get it. A lot of people have always asked me, how do you do both? How are you in corporate and how are you an entrepreneur? Which I've been full-time entrepreneurship for like 2 years now. But you saw that in me as somebody, you're like, okay, she gets it. She's running her business like a business. And I think a lot of times as influencers, people don't see us as a business. They see us as taking photos. Yeah. So I would say that that is one of your wins for sure in corporate, that you can recognize the value that creatives and entrepreneurs bring to the overall system of corporate.
Yeah, I think back to like knowing what I do really well, it's really easy for me to spot what I don't and just really appreciate what other people can do. And when you see someone that's just so joyful in the work that they do, which I see from you, that is someone that I want to work with. I think I get so much energy. Like even when we're talking, it doesn't feel draining. I feel like I draw energy from it. When there's things that I don't enjoy doing or it's not the right mix, it's just so exhausting. And that's not a place that I want to be. So whether it's like leading my team and making sure I have the right people around me who kind of scaffold, let me do what I need to do, and then they're doing what they're uniquely suited for. Everybody thrives in that environment. People are happier, and then you're not like falling into that cycle of burnout.
Yeah, and it allows people the space to figure out who they are in these different environments. So that leads me to my next conversation on leadership, because you are exhibiting, I told you guys, she is the mom to 4 cubs.
Poor children. You gotta be,
I keep referring. I just watched Mufasa this weekend, so y'all are gonna let me live. And this is like you're the queen. So you have 4 kids, and I'm over here trying to figure out how I'm gonna do this with 1.5. Or I'm hoping this is 2 folks in here because
you can knock it out.
I'm not sure about this life. But anyways, she's a mom to 4 cubs, but she's also exhibiting these leadership skills when you're at work. But how do you not lead so fiercely that you lose yourself in the midst of all of it?
Yeah, I think I see a lot of similarities between how I parent and like the mom that I have, which is evolving, right? As my kids get older, and then how I lead. I think just like your children hold a mirror up to you, like if you've ever had a toddler drop an F-bomb, you're like, "Ooh, where'd you learn that from?" And then you figure out, maybe did I say that?
You.
Yeah. And you're like, "Ooh, I don't like that. I don't want to do that." You're constantly editing. It's not just that, but you learn a lot about yourself. You see yourself in your children for better, for worse, and it makes you want to be better. It makes you kind of question, where you're putting your time and how you're kind of modeling for them. And the same thing happens at work with the people I lead. I always say, like, I'm leading leaders. I think in traditional leadership, or a lot of examples we see, there's like somebody leading and everybody follows them.
It's like a pyramid style.
Yeah. Or there's like somebody barking orders from the sidelines and telling people what to do. And I don't subscribe to either of those. I feel like the best leaders, which is the kind of mom I want to be, is like someone who is like really skilled at being a visual storyteller. You can articulate with such clarity somewhere you've never been that everyone is so excited and motivated to do the right things to get to that place that they've never been either. So that's how I try to lead my team. We're building this path together, and you have to be so crisp on what the goal is. And then with my children, I have 4. My oldest is 11. I've never parented a 12-year-old. I want to, and I want them to be like successful and happy adults. That's also something I've not done, but I know what it's going to look like when we're there. So constantly reminding and kind of keeping your eye on like what that long-term vision is, and then editing anything that doesn't feel like it's in alignment with that. And then paying attention when that mirror is held up to you and you see something that you're like, maybe we don't need to be doing that. You can change. And feeling that freedom to like make a mistake, change your mind, do something different. Yeah. That's so important in leadership. It's so important as a mom. And that's like such a skill that's like the foundation for resilience, which is, I think, the most important thing that we can teach our kids.
Oh, for sure. And speaking of teaching our kids something, so Emily took me back. She texted me about her daughter trying out for cheerleading, and her daughter did not make the cheerleading squad. And so they were, I guess, coming out of the gym after finding out they didn't make the cheerleading squad. All of her little friends made the cheerleading squad. So she's texting me this full story, and I'm thinking back to when I was in cheerleading and competitive dance and all of that, which I was always on the cheerleading squad and always in the front of the pyramid. I was working it, sister. I actually went to Worlds. I was one of the top dance teams.
So did I. I didn't tell my daughter this, so I
Y'all don't know this about me. I have to show you guys the YouTube video later. But so anyway, she was taking me back in this text message. But she starts to say, she starts telling me about the girls. So her friends who made the cheerleading squad, they were all surrounding your daughter and just encouraging her. And so I really want you to tell this moment, because I think when we see our kids do this kind of stuff, it really exhibits the good work that we are doing. And when we talk about leadership and the leadership you're doing, sometimes you don't get the feedback at work.
Right.
But you do get it from your kids. They will let you know when they drop a F-bomb.
Well, they're
or
not
anything.
afraid of me.
Yes.
No one talks to me the way
so
my
you
children.
have to tell this story because I think her daughter was exhibiting leadership. You were exhibiting leadership, and those girls, they
that
were
was like
the joy.
a new pain as a mom I hadn't felt before. I think that was what I was really trying to share with you. It was like, oh my gosh, man, I don't know. I do know how to do this. I got there, but at first I was like, oh wow, like you see your child, you know, she's surrounded by her friends. They're all excited. Everybody's screaming like, we got the results, which comes out on Instagram. So they see the results and then excited, they're celebrating, and I see my child's face, and it's going from screaming to confusion to I saw it. And another parent behind me was like, oh no, like to signal it's not all them and it's my kid. I'm glad now it was my child because I didn't know what to do. But at first I was like, man, why did we do this in public? Of course I had considered she not made the team, but I did not consider everybody else would, not her. And this like these feelings of you're failing in public, you feel ashamed, you're not good enough. I saw those feelings, and you would do anything to take those feelings away from your child. And in that moment, I felt like the only way my kid is never going to feel this severe pain again is if I use this moment so she's never afraid of it. Because the worst outcome would be she's not going to try something because she's afraid of failure, because those feelings are so bad that she's feeling right now. If I can prepare her and use this, she'll never feel that bad again because she'll know what happens on the other side of it. And I remember telling her, every Disney movie, someone dies. First 5 minutes, there's 2 more hours to go. Like, it's not bad. Bad is like the beginning, not the end. And it's so hard. You have to wait until you have like a moment to use to teach that. So in that moment, I'm like, regret. And then, oh my gosh, I just hugged my child. I said nothing. And her friends hugged my child and said nothing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we did something right. Like, this is the goal, that you're surrounded by people that you can fail so loudly in front of, that they will stop celebrating themselves and they're going to hug you and get you through this. And what I heard from them was like, it's okay. You did your best. You're going to do better. We can help you. It's good that we all made it because we can teach you. You'll be there next time. And so often I see women who are competing and not collaborating, who opt out because they don't want to feel less than, or they think everyone's better than them. And no, if you want to be better, you surround yourself with the people that have the things you don't have. That's where you're going to get it from. And to see this with girls who are 11, I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about her. It's never going to be this bad again. And then the next day, she emailed the coaches. You know, I saw on her iPhone. She emailed the coaches like, how do I'm a spy.
Yeah.
You get nothing. There's one thing I know. It's how to find out your stuff.
Well, mom at Google, I mean.
There's no way. I am like FBI level. I know every word that is thought of in that phone. But she emailed the coaches like, hey, I had such a great experience, but I'm so sad. And I really would like to try again. What can I do to get better? And what I'm teaching her and I saw was, you feel your feelings, you have a failure, you feel your feelings. Because not every rejection is meant for you. You don't double down every time. Sometimes you need to reflect, and that might not be meant for you. And this is a blessing, you do something else. But you take that time to reflect on it, and then you make a choice and you make a plan. And she made a choice. I'm going to double down. I want to do this. I know it's going to be hard. I got to get a plan together. And so to see her at 11, emailing the coaches, we didn't grammar check it, okay? And she got back this lovely, encouraging response, because I was about to be on them too. I'm waiting for that, right? They said the right things, and now she's like, she's trying out again. She's ready to go. And I do not have to worry. You know, it's different with sons. They're climbing on stuff, falling off. I want them to worry more. We need some more fear. Yeah. Little boys are hard to keep alive. They're hard to keep alive. We have skin glue, okay, at the house. The girls, like, I don't want them to be held back by just the fear of failure. I want them to run towards it, embrace it, learn from it, because that's the place that you're going to have all the good stuff. That's when the good part of the story happens. And I'm so grateful that I saw that. And I'm also glad that she stayed, she celebrated with them, and she turned it around in that moment, was able to cheer for her friends too. Yeah, I love that. I do have a fun story, because my sister and I, we both grew up doing, well, there's 5 of us, but I'm speaking about my sister that's 2 years older than me. We grew up doing pageants and modeling and all of it. And you do. And I think Mallory and Devin, some of the pageant girls in the room, can attest to how pageantry is very much so a thing where it teaches you how to deal with rejection and this is not my time early on. So, I mean, a lot of stuff just doesn't hurt us. It's like, I think when you try out for cheerleading, when you do pageants and your number isn't called, you learn to be okay with not winning. And you also learn to celebrate every other girl that's up there on that stage. I think all of us have stood there holding hands and they didn't call our number and we're all about to cry and shit our pants. But
but it is what it is. So, I love that you're already putting your daughter in these scenarios where she is figuring it out.
Yeah.
So I think it's a practice that we definitely all can learn. But I also want to call out Dr. Martin, who's in the room. She's right back here. Dr. Martin just posted, she was on the podcast 2 episodes ago, but she just posted a video about not taking your kids out of uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage you all. Dr. Martin has gotten me together plenty of times. She's a therapist. And she will get you together even if you don't go see her in the private practice. She will get you together. So if you need some help with gathering yourself in leadership in life, I suggest calling her too. But I love that you are able to put all this together at work and then also transcend it after work, because you are a lioness and your cubs are doing well in life.
Thank you.
I do have a question for you about what advice you give to women on balancing all the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I don't think there's balance, because if you picture like a scale and like it's going to be equal all the time, it's not. And I can't like shut off being a mom when I go to work. I try really hard to shut off being like a boss when I come home. My husband's not trying to have that. So I work on that part. But like in general,
Is his roar louder?
We don't need to have that kind of dynamic. He can be in charge. And I use up all my decisions. I make a lot of decisions during the day. When I get home, I don't need to, he can do that, But with, you got to remind me where we were. Now I'm thinking about my husband.
We were talking about advice to other women to balance it all.
Okay. We were married 16 years yesterday, okay? My advice to women, I tell women, wherever you are in your journey, is to not ask for permission, to ask for support. Because we know what we need most of the time, and that should be our work to figure it out, what our boundaries are, what needs we have. And when you ask somebody else for permission, you give them a yes or no, the default, easy, is no. And when you know what you need, why would you even give that power to someone else? And then you're also inviting someone else to make a decision on your life based on their lens and their framework. And you want to make your own choices based on what you need. It should be unique to you. And so what that looks like, in business, I have travel rules for myself that I've never broken. I've never written them down. I haven't had to say them out loud. But they are, I won't do more than 3 nights away at a time. And I won't have 2 trips in a row that are more like less than 3 weeks apart. And only once has it happened that there were 2 trips, big meetings, whatever, kind of back to back. And instead of going to my manager and saying, hey, I have this problem, I can't do these both in a row. Like my kids are going to have like this recovery period. My husband's going to be stressed out. It's $1 million to have childcare for that long in a row. I need to do something else. Not doing that. It was, hey, I have these 2 trips back to back. One of them I will do remotely. The other one I'm going to do on site. Which one would you like me to prioritize? There's no offered. You give someone the choice, he's going to choose one. Thank you for your support. Because then I can go back to the people that said, hey, this is mandatory. Well, no, it's not. I'm not doing that. We all decided I'm not doing that, And it's not you're not coming from a place of like, I'm not what I will and won't do. It's leadership to say like, this is what I need to be the most productive.
Yeah.
I have Google Fiber. I can work remotely. It'll be just fine, and then you solve the problem for the person. And I tell my team this too. It's like, if you're going to come to your manager, your boss, your leader, whatever, with a problem, that's not you being a leader. You can come with an observation and a suggestion and then ask for advice.
Yeah.
That's it's making their job easier as well, but that's also, being a leader yourself.
Yeah. And I think it can be very hard to ask for help sometimes, especially for women's instinct is to just get it done.
Yeah.
I was talking to Clark, one of my friends back here in the gym one day, and she was like, girl, I will move a whole couch by myself before my husband even gets home. Mind you, her husband plays in the NFL, so he ought to be moving that couch. But it was just funny because she was like, I will move a whole couch before I ask for help. And I think a lot of us, that's how we move in life.
Yeah.
So what do you say to all of us who feel like we don't want to ask for help because we don't have time for it, or it just presents a weakness that we're not willing to give into?
Yeah. I mean, you can move the couch, then you roll your ankle, pull your back out. What happens now? So I think it's like, and I'm the same way. Like I default to like, I'll just do it or I'll make it work, especially if it's like, I don't want to wait, you want to get things done on time. But if you continue to come from a place of yes and never know how to say no to anything, you should say yes to opportunities, right? But like, if you're always the one, you're not developing other people around you, but you're also overburdening yourself. So I think it's like having the discipline to, what can I uniquely do that only I can do? And like leaning into that. And if it's something that someone else can do, it's not necessarily help. It's more like, you can do it all. not all at the same time. So I just try to think of it as like logistics, you know, what needs to get done and when, and then trying to make use of like the highest, best use of your time and not feeling like you're giving in by asking for someone else to do something. It's more that you're just giving them an opportunity or using what's unique to them as a skill set that, you know, you're helping develop.
Yeah. So ultimately, when you help yourself, you're helping everybody else around you. So yeah, you guys get in the practice of asking for help. I'm practicing. My last question for you is around your life or your long-term vision for women in corporate spaces, because corporate does not really fit the bill for a lot of us, especially as moms. It eventually kicks people out. And then people start doing their own thing. It can be a hard place, and that needs to transition. Yeah. So I'm wondering what your long-term vision for all of us in corporate America looks like.
Yeah.
I was telling Emily before we got started with this, my last corporate job, I did not have maternity leave. So, and luckily because of who I reported to, and he was so high up, I mean, I literally went back to work illegally. He was like, tell HR you're coming back in the system and take however much time you need. And, you know, if HR ever found out, I probably would have had to pay them back. But, you know, it's corporate America a lot of times is not designed to support us.
Yeah. I mean, I had something similar. I was pregnant when I applied to Google. I had the baby 3 days later. I didn't tell anyone. She was a few weeks old. Like, I don't recommend that, by the way. That was a mistake. But at the time, you know, I did the best with what I had. And then I had this moment I had to like come out of the closet like, hey, I have a baby. Stop making me do stuff. I'm breastfeeding. Like, this is getting awkward. And by the time I had my next child, of course I knew better. And I took 8 months maternity leave. My oldest two were 2 and 4. And then I got to go back to work, and they don't ever remember that I've worked. And they're like, where are you going? What is better than hanging out with us all day? And I'm a saleswoman. I need to convince them. So I wrote my children's book, Mommy Works at Google, to tell them, to teach them and have the language to say like, get excited about this. Cheer me on. I want you guys to not be crying when I'm leaving the house because I might not get out the door. And that it worked for me. I published it so that anybody that works at Google and takes their Google Fiber, takes a maternity leave or a paternity leave, their daddy works at Google too. They have this as a tool to tell their children what they're doing all day. And now my kids see the logo anywhere. And they're like, Mommy, did your friends build that? Like, they get so excited, you know? So my vision for anyone working is no different for women than it is for men, but it's that you can get out the door, you can bring your whole self to work. You know that, you know, in the last page of the book, it says the only thing you can't Google is a new idea. You have something unique you only can put out in the world. And if you don't, it's not going to exist. I want everyone to know what that is and then go and do that. And everything else should be in alignment to support that. And you should be able to show up as your whole self, wherever you are, corporate or not. I don't ever think I considered myself corporate till we had this chat. But, you know, be who you are authentically and wholly always. You'll be more successful, more happy that way. But it gives everybody else the permission to do that too. And that's where you get the goodness of what's unique to them that you're not going to find otherwise.
100%. And the funny thing about that is most everybody in this room, I think, has a business. There are only a few people in this room who are actually working in corporate. My work bestie, Jen, is in the back. She and I braved iHeart together. Good Lord. But I will say that we function as corporate companies too. I mean, a lot of people in this room have staffs, even if they're not full-time, they are outsourcing and all the above. So I think that your advice today as a woman in corporate, you are a corporation in and of your own self, and you're running a whole house full of cubs. And
the thing. I'm running the thing.
Yes, you are running the thing. That's Mallory's line. We gotta wait till Mallory gets running that thing. Y'all got to go back and listen to me and Mallory's podcast. It's actually really funny. But I just want to thank you so much again. I always give everyone their flowers when they come to the Sweet House. You know, all of this like makes sense because when Kim can tell you, Kim is also my work bestie from when I was working at Merry Medical College. I collect people if y'all haven't noticed. But
I love that.
Anyways, Kim will tell you anytime she's at my house, there's a spread and, you know, we do what we need to do. And there's flowers and everything. So I'm giving you your flowers while you're in the Sweet House. And I don't know anybody who has taken the initiative to make sure that everyone who's coming behind them is taken care of the way that you have through your books, through your resilience, through your vulnerability. And I just want to give you your flowers today. And I love you so much. I'm so grateful.
You just want to make me cry because you said everybody cries.
Everybody cries in the Sweet House, except for Dr. Martin.
Thank you. I need to learn from you how to not do that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, you guys, give her a round of applause. My next guest, because I am David Letterman, and my next guest is my friend Mallory Irvin. She is the founder of Living Fully Co. In my Sundays, she is also running a whole village, a village and a farm and everything in between. But what is so funny about Mallory and I is she brings baby blessings, because Mallory asked me to be on her podcast. What was it, 2021?
Yeah.
And
2021.
I said, well, I'll be there, but I might be throwing up everywhere.
Where is my friend Alex Sweet? Does he know that I knew before him?
No, I don't know. Did you know that she knew before? Yeah, because I kept running late for dinner and I ended up having to tell him in the club. So all of our dinner reservations kept getting canceled. And then he was like, I want to go to Weekend. So it's a club here. Well, it's closed now, but it's a club here in Nashville. So we're sitting there with hookah smoke and alcohol. And I was like, I'm pregnant.
That's a great story.
But it's your fault that we ended up in the club.
Yeah,
So-
it is. And I love it that I bring baby blessings. And my body is bodying too, but in a different way. Because I just had a baby and I'm breastfeeding too. And I don't pump. I usually exclusively breastfeed, but for this special occasion, I had a pump before. So when it starts coming out, it's, just ignore it. I've got the blocks, but
I don't know what is with the animal fever today, but she's the lioness and you brought the cheetah behavior and I'm sure we won't even see the milk.
No, you won't see the milk. 2 layers.
But thank you. I'm giving you your flowers ahead of time because today is her son's birthday. Her oldest just turned 7.
He did.
And she just had a baby and you don't have to be sitting here and you are. And I'm just grateful for that.
Well,
and
you're a special person.
You are a special person to me.
And you are a star. And like seeing you just, you could be a comedian. You're a podcast host. She's a TV. You could literally do anything. It's being in your presence is an honor. So I'm happy to be here. Now, if I have mush brain, it's because I have not slept in literally 8 weeks. And it's, it's a beautiful season though, like being in a room with a brand like Google with people like these people. And also like a mom of an 8-week-old baby and a 7-week-old little seed here. It's a pretty cool thing.
It's really wild.
Yeah. It is.
We're living life on the wild side.
Yeah, we are.
But you have constantly lived life on the wild side. Good Lord, I can't talk today. Well, you are a wife too. Kyle's a comedian too. So don't put Kyle and Alex
After
in the
dark.
same room.
Yeah.
Alex in the gold chain.
Alex in the gold chain is my
Every time
favorite
Mallory
man.
sees me, she says, where's Alex in that gold chain?
Where is Alex in that gold chain? Like Kyle, I swear, Kyle got his gold chain out after he said, Alex looks so cool with that chain. I never would have thought to wear a chain. His had a big crucifix on it. I got it for him when he was baptized into the Catholic Church. His was definitely not as cool as yours, Alex, but like you made the gold chain cool again in our house.
And she would text me and she'd say, Alex, no, Kyle's so influenced by Alex. And
He
it's so
loves
funny.
him. He's so cool. Jess just was like, he has really cool style. Like whisper. I was like, I know. I told you they're really cool. Yeah.
But you are an OG influencer. There was a time in Nashville when there would be about 5 or 6 of us, 10 of us at events. Hunter, Ashley Houston. We were the OG
only
influencers.
ones.
Yeah. And then Mallory started manifesting and really growing her brand. So Living Fully turned into this corporation. And so I want to know what inspired you to create that, because while the rest of us were still out here trying to figure out the influencer world, Mallory was designing this corporation.
You're giving me too much credit there. I think that, and how cool is it too that like we're still doing it? Because OG, that's a great way to say it, because I feel geriatric. Like in my pregnancy, I feel like a geriatric influencer as well.
You're like Snoop Dogg. Yeah.
That's exactly who I'm like.
Yeah.
So you
need a bar on Broadway.
Yeah, I do need a bar on Broadway. So the interesting soiree into like influencing it all, it came at a really weird time kind of in my life. I grew up in Kentucky on this, you're saying the farm, on a farm with 23 first cousins. I'm the oldest, like had this great life. Like everything was so fun. I always thought I'll sing country music one day. Like that's what I always thought would be my job. Well, fast forward, I became Miss Kentucky and I did Miss America going back to the pageant days. And when they announced me as 4th runner up, I definitely went, but it was a good thing I didn't win because there were a lot of things going on at the time.
Oh, yeah.
So then I did reality TV for a few seasons. And kind of reached a lot of mountaintop moments in my life at a young age. And I was always a perfectionist and always an achiever, but it never really crippled me until, I'm 25, 26 years old. I had achieved all these things and I was like, what's next? I started thinking like, what do people expect of me? I started putting a lot of pressure on myself. What do I expect of myself? I really started spiraling for the first time in my life. And it was the hardest thing I ever went through. And I ended up going to a treatment center in 2014. And if you'd told me, the valedictorian of the class and the Miss Kentucky, and this like perfect vision of who I thought that I would be, that's where I would end up in my life, I would have been like, you read the wrong book, because that's not my journey. And Jasmine, I've told you this before, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was I thought it would be something that I didn't talk about, that I didn't tell people about. I was embarrassed about it. And it ended up being the catalyst into my brand, which is Living Fully. And how it happened was, after I got out, I kept thinking, what am I going to do for work? What am I going to do for a job? And at the time, people were starting blogs, like BLOGS, blogs. We don't know what they are hardly anymore. And I started a blog, started posting like fashion stuff, started a YouTube channel, started doing makeup. And I built an online community over that year and a half or so of, a few 100,000 followers. It turned into a job. Like I was getting paid for partnerships and learning how to work the affiliate angle. And as you hear from your community, I started hearing from my community like, oh my gosh, your life. I want a life like that. I want a relationship like that with my husband. Or how do you wake up in the morning and you seem this upbeat about life and joy-filled and happy? And I started thinking in the back of my mind, because at that point in time, nobody knew what I'd gone through. Nobody knew I'd gone to treatment and this thing that I had struggled with in my life. And I just had this moment where I was like, I'm not telling the whole story. And it's doing these people a disservice. And there's probably a lot of people who are messaging me this that are dealing with something like this or dealing with a hard time in their lives. And I decided at that point, I was just like, I don't want to just influence these people. Like I really want to impact their lives. And so I let them in on that part of my story. And that's when Living Fully was born. And I started the podcast, and then I wrote the book, and it became the most beautiful work that I'd done. And I can still remember the night before that book came out, and the night before, like, the story was about to be told. It was already on the shelves. You can't stop the train while it's
Did you have a nervousness about it?
Yes. I was like, is there anything we can do to stop it? Like, I was very, I was just nervous of how it would be perceived. And I just had this gut feeling of like, this is the next chapter of what I want to do. This is the thing that I'm supposed to do. And when that book came out and people knew the whole story, I think that they liked me more. Yeah. And I think that anytime anyone expresses authenticity, but especially the vulnerable parts of our story, it's an amazing thing because, Lord, who doesn't have things like that happen in their lives? This is life.
No.
It's ups and downs. And it's a beautiful thing when people can give you permission by sharing their story to show up as yourself. So that's how Living Fully was born. And then we started the merch line, and then it just became the community, and then the sellouts, and then the
and simultaneously she was having all these children. And buying chickens and going back home to Kentucky with the 20-something cousins that has turned into 900. You and Alex rival with family members. Alex has 900 family members in Memphis. His grandmother's 110 years old. Y'all.
Is she for real 110?
She is. Yeah, we just celebrated.
Is that a record?
She's the second oldest person in Mississippi. So, yeah.
Well.
And she's still at home. So, and when we go back to Memphis to Alex's house, it's 900 family members. So
that's awesome. Isn't family awesome though? What a gift. It
is. It is such a gift. Speaking of family, it's funny because I always say that my podcasts are ordained. I think anybody on the Cast Collective staff can tell you when I am interviewing people, just something comes about. There is a spirit in the room and something comes about.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times when I have authors, like I'll just flip to a page in their book. I always read everybody's book. Sean,
I do too.
Rocky, anybody who has been, they're all at these interviews. They can all tell you that like everyone leaves saying, wow, you knew more about me than anybody.
100%. And you know what? You know what's wild to me is that everybody doesn't do that.
They don't. Like I had a couple that had been on Good Morning America Today show and everything, and they said that nobody
read
knew
my
what they
book.
yes. Nobody read their stuff, nobody watched their show, like nobody knew anything. But anyways, I brought that up because I read your book. Mallory sent out PR kits for her when she released her book, and mine came with a personalized note to Jasmine, and she sent over these cute little stickers.
Oh my
and
gosh,
all of her PR
this is a
packages
blast from the past.
I know, isn't this wild? So I finished the book, and then I just put everything. I like to keep people's notes and stuff, but I put everything back in the book just like this, and it has been in my book cabinet for like the past 2 years, just like this. So I went to open the book the other day when I was prepping for this interview, and all of this was sitting on this page, and you said, so my dad was right in all those letters he wrote me over the years. Balance is one of the most important things to master in our lives. And I figured it out why he reminded me of this again and again. And it's because balance is never really mastered on a grand scale in our lives. It's mastered in the details and the daily choices. Choosing to correctly label and then fiercely protect the things we value most is how we do it. And that's exactly what I've watched him do all these years. Thanks, Dad. And I thought it was so crazy.
Good line for me right now, too.
I know. We're all going to need some tissue up here in a minute.
It's all good.
But I thought it was so crazy that I flipped to that part because it's kind of exactly what you were just saying about how living fully came into fruition.
Yeah.
But also how you're kind of scared to tell your story for how it was going to be perceived. But then the fact that your dad, that I flipped to this page, and remember when you interviewed me and you started asking me about my dad. And my dad passed in 2016. And so Mallory was asking me something, and I said, the Lord gives you supernatural power when you lose a parent to keep moving. I don't know what it is, but I felt like I had nothing else to lose when he went away. And I remember telling you that. So it's so crazy that I opened the book to like where your dad was speaking to you. And I'm the youngest of 5. Mallory's the oldest of 4. We both come from these wild zoo families. And I also grew up in the country fishing, and I know I look like a city girl now, but
So do I, but I'm not.
I was definitely in the country too.
Yeah.
But Sarah knows this. Sarah's like my long distant cousin from West Tennessee. So she, but I thought this was so wild that I flipped to this page and I had all your original stuff and your personalized note and everything. And it was exactly like you talking about living fully coming into fruition. So I want you to know that you have created a blessing, and this book is actually going home with 10 copies of it are going home in somebody's gift bags. But then also Mallory wrote a journal in tandem with this book. And so the journal is going home with the other 50 of you.
That's so
in this
sweet
room.
of you guys to
It
do
was
that
sold
too.
out to, we couldn't even get the journal for everybody.
Gosh.
So some of you guys are getting the book and some of you are getting the journal.
Well, that makes me emotional too, that you turned to that page, because it's something that, you know, as a mom of a newborn and with more businesses that I've ever had, and, you know, a lot of things going on in the world that are making it really hard to run a business. I am struggling to find balance. I'm struggling to walk in the door of my house and not let the stress that I'm feeling in a workplace, in a really stressful environment, influence and affect my home. And you know what's so funny that you talked about my dad too, because he really wanted to come. And he was in my house just a while ago, and my mom and dad, and he kept being like, well, it's a women's event. And Nick told me, so they work with Google, they build Google fiber networks. And he's like, well, they said it's a women's event, but can I go? I'll hold the baby. Cause I was trying to decide, am I going to bring the baby or not? And he didn't end up coming, but he would have really loved that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was really struggling last week. I was really struggling, and I try and put on a brave face for my household, for my amazing 9 employees who are all women. We've got a great all women team on a stage like this. And then you hear something like that and it's like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
You just saw into my soul of like what is happening live right now. But is this not the beauty of the blessing of a family and growing a young family at the same time of growing a business.
It is.
Finding the balance.
For those of us who've been career women by default, I have always been a career woman by default. I mean, before Alex even asked me to marry him, I was like, sir, I have to get my MBA. Don't touch me.
And she got it.
And I did it. So I'm like, don't even look at me. Don't slide a hand up my skirt. So, because for those of us who've been career women by default, I mean, and even I waited 5 years before I decided to become a mom. But meanwhile, my mom was working and had 5 kids. My dad was running a construction company. I mean, Emily and I, we were all just talking about this, and Becca, we were all talking about this upstairs. The times were slower too. Now we're up against so much. So I have to give you your flowers again, because there is so much going on in the world that is affecting all of us, and we're moving at the speed of light, that it's hard to slow down. And it's hard to slow down and even send a text message some days.
It is. I know, because how many times do you have to text me sometime for me to respond?
A
few times. I'm sorry. That is bad. Yeah. That is mine. That's a weakness of mine. Text messaging. Yes. I agree with that so much. And the beauty is that we're finding the balance. And also you see so many women in this room. Emily, you are a star too. Not only are you so smart and have such a big job, but you're extremely well spoken. And I hope you write do you have another book besides the children's book? Or one day.
Yeah.
But it's yes, for real.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing too, because my husband chooses to stay home as a stay-at-home dad, be the primary parent. What an amazing thing that in this day and age that it is different than when our parents grew up, but that's something that's so common amongst successful women and women in this room. I think that is the ultimate man too, being you know what, I'm going to take this on. Because sometimes Kyle looks at me and he's like, I don't know, I don't think a man's meant to do this. And I'm like, no, we're doing it. We're doing it.
It is a very interesting topic, because I just had Tyler Hilton on from One Tree Hill. His episode's coming out in a couple weeks. And,
awesome.
He said that he took 5 years off to be a dad. So the dads are stepping up. Now mine is selling drugs and doing it.
I'll buy him at this point.
Mine is he's hustling. So,
that is so funny.
But I do have one last question for you. And that's when you think about living. I didn't even need these questions for you.
You know what? I didn't really even read them either. So
you know what? I send the questions to people ahead of time, because some people need the questions, but then there's some people that are just let's just.
I like a free flow, Jasmine.
I like a free flow too. See, we're rappers. Except I can't rap for anything. But when you think about living fully, what vision are you holding for your life and your business next? I know you said you're in the thick of it and you're struggling with balance, but you are a visionary. Chapter 12 in this book is all about creating a vision for your life. I was going to go there, but we don't have time. So that is why everybody has the book.
Yeah, you can read it.
And we need to hear it right from you first. What is your vision for your brand?
It's a beautiful thing to reach your goals in life. It's to get to the top of the mountain it's amazing. But the thing that my vision for the next chapter of my life, I think my next book that I write will be on fulfillment. And I've reached the top of so many mountains. We're both believers, and I believe that God hand delivered me to a lot of the places that as a country girl from Kentucky, I was able to arrive to. And that is a beautiful thing. But what would be devastating is if you get to the top of the mountain and you forget to look around and you forget to enjoy it, and you forget about these beautiful blessings in your life, all of these children that you've had, all the things that you've prayed for and that you got. You forget to reprioritize, and you forget to enjoy it, and you forget to be fulfilled by getting all the things you wanted. And so my vision for living fully is to find fulfillment in everything that I've built and grown. My family, all my personal things, my family, all my business things, my pajamas and my merchandise and podcasts and books. All those things are amazing, but y'all, this is our life. This is your one life. And you just have to wake up and love the life that you're in. So I think that that's my vision for living fully now. Making sure that the overwhelm and the stress and the craziness doesn't catch up to you to where you don't enjoy everything that God has given you. I wrote in my book, don't let your blessings become your burdens. I think that we're probably all guilty of that. You get the job you want, you have the kids, you have this spouse, and then you're like waking up in the morning, you're going,
What's next?
good Lord, it's morning. And like this man beside me and all these kids need all this thing, all these businesses. So yeah, I think that's my vision of living fully. It's finding balance. It's finding fulfillment. It's enjoying these businesses, but also like remembering what in the world is important in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you again for sharing your story with us and
You're the
teaching us
best.
how to live fully, being the epitome of that, pioneering the industry for a lot of us. I mean, several of us have come after you. I think Hunter she came out with Premonition Goods. Go listen to Hunter's episode. It's amazing. It's called Hunter Had a Premonition.
Oh, that's a great title.
But so many of us are going after your blueprint too. So
That means a lot.
we love you so much.
Thanks.
And we're
Thank
grateful.
you for having me.
Thank
This was a real
you.
honor. Thank you guys.
Thank you. All right, so my next guest is my girlfriend, my soul sister, the whole reason this podcast keeps moving and shaking, Erin Dugan. She is the founder of Cast Collective and my fellow Memphian, West Tennessee girl. We hustle different. Erin, I met a little before I got laid off from iHeartRadio. And so when I got laid off, I called Erin maybe 2 months later. No. I'm saying after we first met. 2 months after we first met.
you got
We'd
laid
already
off.
been
Yeah.
talking about, I told her I had an atrocious experience 2 times in a row with filming the podcast. I mean, filmed a whole season the second go round. And I was like, I will never let this see the light of day. And so I went to Erin, I told her all the things that went wrong with it. And she was like, I can fix it. I promise you I can fix it. We can do this. And I had faith, but I was like, okay, I don't have anything to lose. I'm just going to try it out.
Traumatized.
Yeah, I was traumatized. I was like, I put my name on the line. I asked special guests because as you guys can see, I only asked special guests to be a part of this podcast. I had a vision for it. If you haven't figured out by now, the vision, I had a vision for this entire thing coming to life in the way that you guys are experiencing it today. And so when I went to Erin, I told her all this. She was probably scared to death and probably I don't want to work with her. But
No, I wasn't.
then I got laid off from iHeart and I called Erin the next day and I said, it's time. So
You didn't miss a beat.
so I was like, girl, when are we coming into the studio? I'm going to bulk film some episodes. I don't know if Kelly Sutton made it in today. I don't know if she's here. Kelly Sutton was a big time news reporter here in Nashville who'd also gotten laid off maybe a couple months before me. And so Kelly started Today in Nashville, which is the show she got laid off from. She worked the show for 13 years and they still axed her. And so when I got laid off, the first 2 calls I made were to Erin and then Kelly Sutton. And I said, Kelly, I need you to be my first guest because I have to tell the world I just got laid off and what time it is out here. Because guess what? Memphis hustles harder.
That's right.
So I'll call Erin and I say it's time and we start to set up everything. And Erin's probably never worked with anyone like me before because she shoots all the celebrities podcasts and they have $1 million budgets. And I'm a one-woman band. So
I worked with offensive linemen before that, so you're not that bad.
So I just have to give you your flowers before we get into your questions too, because she has been nominated for a GLAAD award recently. Everybody clap for her
Thanks,
because that's an
Jasmine.
incredible honor.
I guess, but yeah.
This is her entire team that is here today. If you need any videography needs, Erin is your girl, especially for in-studio stuff. People ask me all the time, how does your stuff look like that? Because this is my woman. So
We're a thing, for sure.
but I want to talk to Erin about breaking into male-dominated spaces, entrepreneurship, and also connection. And I chose these because Erin is a girl who came from sports videography, who'd also been laid off from Vanderbilt.
That's right. Correct.
So she resonated with my story. And then, like I said, we just took off from there. So my first question for you is, what was the moment you realized you wanted to step into entrepreneurship? Because let me just brag on her again for a minute. I can brag on her all night. But she has a studio on Music Row. So whenever I'm booking my guests and they're like, should we come to your house? No, you should not come to my house. You should meet me on Music Row at Cass Collective at 9 a.m. You should park on 16th and bring yourself through the doors that say Cass Collective.
You're my biggest hype woman for sure.
I am really her biggest hype woman. But Erin, what made you want to go into entrepreneurship coming from the world that you came from?
I mean, I always knew I wanted something that was my own eventually. But what expedited the process was getting laid off. And I talk about in spirit of transparency, which I talk about a lot in podcasts. Yeah, I mean, I got laid off from, I was working like ESPN, SEC Network, and Vanderbilt. COVID hit. Obviously not a good time to be in anything, especially live events of any sort. And they laid off everybody. And much like... I had to take a second. It took me about a day too. You bounced back maybe 12 hours quicker than I did. But when I got home, I was really upset because I loved that job. I really did. I didn't get paid enough, but I loved it. And my brother, who now is over here, Sean, he's going to hate the attention, but here it is. Everyone's looking at you. He was living in the same building as me at the time. And I came back and I was upset because I'd gotten off the phone. Of course, they made me work for like 8 hours and then they fired me. I was like, that makes sense. But he goes, okay, perfect. Now it's time to start your empire. And it was just like that little tiny boost of his confidence too. That was like, he was like, and then what? Like, let's do it.
Yeah. I never knew that Sean was the reason for the season, but it makes sense because Sean does keep everything in order when you're not in the studio. I mean, the entire team is really doing a miracle job.
I have the best team.
Yeah, you really do have the best team. So even when Erin can't make it and she's in LA filming with her famous clients, I do still have a good staff. So when I invite you to the Sweet House, you know to come to Music Row. The real Sweet House is on Music Row.
That's right.
But I do love that you took a chance on yourself. Were you scared to hop into entrepreneurship? I mean, that's kind of a big deal to get a spot on Music Row. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and I don't honestly know like what the hell I was thinking because I didn't have any money. So it's like, I don't really know. I just told one person one time during 2020 that I wanted a brick and mortar location. Again, like no money. I don't know. I was just like, well, whatever, I'll figure it out. And I had my eye on that building for like years. I got my hair done before one of the SEC games, and because I was doing sideline reporting, and I just walked in there, and the second I did, it used to be a hair salon. I was like, I need a building just like this one day, and I didn't really. I dropped it. That was several years before 2020, and then I picked up the phone one day and was like, hey, in passing, like saw a friend and was like, I'm looking for a brick and mortar location. Like, just let me know if you hear of anything. Never mentioned that hair salon, which was Craft at the time. And 12 hours later, she called me back and she's like, this is going to sound weird, but have you ever been in Craft Hair Salon on Music Row? And I was like, okay, if that's not the universe just slapping you across the face and saying, do it. So I did the math problem as many times as I could. And I was like, I think it makes sense. Like, I've done the math problem in my sleep. So jump, because I don't think you're ever not going to be scared. At least I felt like I was always going to be scared to do something big.
Yeah, I always have that discussion, and you know this with everybody that comes on the podcast about when was the right time to invest in your businesses. I mean, Natalie and I had it now for 100%. And even the fact that you have to invest sometimes your own money into it. Like I told Erin, like I'm out here working on a hope and a prayer to make the Sweet House come into fruition for the third go round. So you got to make it happen for me, sister. And she has definitely aided in making every bit of this happen. But I just like, we come from West Tennessee. We come from Memphis. I keep harping on that because I don't think Memphis is always the underdog. We're always counted out. It's like, where'd you go to college? Memphis versus UT basketball. It's like, look, we're not doing this today.
It's a whole thing.
But what has Memphis or growing up in West Tennessee really taught you about your grit and the grind that you have for business and life?
I mean, I really think that at the end of the day, like there's a lot of things about Memphis that tie back to everything in my life, not only my connection to you, but like why I love documentary style film. Equality is, in Memphis, like the poorest of the poor grow up 2 blocks away from the richest of the rich, and it's right in their faces. I mean, these kids don't have lunch money, and this is a $2 million house in Chickasaw, and it's right there. And I think the thing that our parents did well, and I also think we were born with it too, but is just everyone is equal. There is no question about it. And that's like really like my love for sports and my just desire for everyone to be on the same page is really what led me to documentary style film as it relates to sports, because it's one of the most unifying things that exists besides music. And like when the Grizzlies are winning, everybody's a Grizzly. Like doesn't matter black, white, yellow, purple. And so I think
and everybody's yelling whoop that trick at the game.
That's how you know it's different, is we sing whoop that trick at a Grizzlies games.
You know what? If you've never been to an NBA game, you need to go to Memphis. 3 hours away. It is the best experience. I mean, literally the best games that you'll ever go to.
But it gives you like that little bit of edge. And I think especially working in sports, you needed that, because there's men in the room. It's like a bunch of old white guys named Steve. Like they're all named Steve and they're all old and white. And it's like, you have to be able to stand your ground. And I think that Memphis giving me that little bit of that extra something. And then
be able to stand in the room.
To be able to stand in the room and just and say that not just because it's been done this way always doesn't mean it's the right way. Like Steve might not be right about this process and procedure. And also just building, but behind that, like I think competence comes from confidence. So just like knowing I'd done the work, knowing I'm good at my job, and then I can stand in the room and kind of push back and say like, no, I actually don't think that's the right way. And if you tell me I have to do it that way and it goes against my moral compass, I'm doing this one no matter what.
Yeah. I love that you dreamed it up, because I would never have had the Sweet House in the way that it is had you not dreamed it up, because I still would have been out here crawling the streets in Nashville.
And I wouldn't have had 30% of my clientele if it wasn't for you. So thank you.
I am a true influencer. I will give myself the flowers.
You really are.
Everybody that I bring to shoot at Erin's studio ends up using her. But you know, that happens to me a lot. Rachel Tenpenny, who has shot a lot of people's photography in this room, Rachel was mine first. Then Hunter stole her, and Mallory, and Holly, and Sarah. Everybody started stealing Rachel. And you know, it happens. And then I stole a poet from Memphis. Now everybody's using poet. Now everybody's using you.
I'm not stealable all the way. I'll be with you.
Not all the way.
No
She's
what.
Loyal.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. The rest are loyal too. But I tend to find good people. And when I find good people like you, I just want to stick with them. And we're going to the end of time together. We're going off the Mississippi together.
Thanks for asking me to do this.
Of course. I am so grateful for you, because like I said, I cannot say thank you enough to everything that you've done. Like, it makes me cry when I think about it, because 40 something episodes in now, and every time I wanted to be like, oh no, I can't do this, or anytime I just was feeling overwhelmed with it. I remember when we first started filming, and I made a spreadsheet and I sent her all the guests, and I was like, okay, where are these episodes? And she knows I'm type A and I'm all about my business. Erin was like, whoa, let's calm down. Let's calm down and let's sort it out together. But I think that it's also the Memphis in you, that you're like not afraid of the confrontation of handling the business so you can have the best product. I've never gotten anything back from her that I've been like, you know, this is crazy. She has fixed everything that I've done. Even if it was shot by somebody else, I have sent it to her and been like, turn this water into some Dolly wine.
It's magic.
Period. I do have one last question for you, and then we got to move on to Becca.
Let's do it.
I'm so excited. But what's your vision for the Cast Collective as it continues to evolve? Because you have all these celebrity clients, and then I hosted a fundraiser for 300 people for the Women's Fund the other night, and Erin did the video for that. And that video reached hundreds of organizations that the Women's Fund gives money to. So the work that you do keeps on giving. And I don't even think you realize that a lot of times, because you're so in the weeds, the tech and doing all that. But what's your vision? Because you got nominated for a GLAAD award that Keke Palmer won. But, you know,
I can't be too mad Keke beat me. It's all right.
But she's in that category. So to see you get there is really cool.
I was happy just to be there. But yeah, I'm like, I geeked out because I got to take a picture of Cynthia Erivo, and I was like, everything's great. Yeah. But I think that question was really hard for me when I looked at it beforehand, because I mean, we are like launching into like a full network. That's the next step for the company. I just like see podcasting networks not treating their clients correctly, taking way too big of a piece of the profit. I'm like, you can make a lot of money and not be nearly this greedy and be better at your job. So I'm like, I can do that. So that's the next step. But the larger vision, I mean, I want to keep getting the right people in the building because my team is incredible, and I want to keep working with really good clients. And then I want, I feel like whatever the universe, if I stay on the right path and just do the next right thing, I feel like whatever the universe has planned is probably better than what I do.
Yeah, I definitely think so. You're going to continue to flourish and your business is going to continue to grow, and I will do whatever I can to make sure that 30%
Girl, you're already doing it.
Goes up and up and up. I'm like, I mention my friends in rooms that they've never been in. That's
that
one thing I do. I
Yeah.
think Sarah, Emily, everybody in this room that has worked with me knows that. I will hand over a brand contact in a minute. I mean, I introduced Shayna to a brand recently and she was like, you didn't have to be so formal. I was like, well, girl, I wanted to introduce you in the right way.
That's because Jasmine has 2 emails, the one that she sent and the one she wanted to send, and they're different.
Aaron always laughs at me about that because I send very strict business emails. I will get you together. The corporate and me will get you together. And Ashley Houston will send me her emails and say, hey, can you respond to this? I absolutely can. Dear sir or madam.
Warmest
I hope
regards.
this email finds you well. If it don't, I don't care.
That's amazing.
How about that? Because I ain't working for free. And that's that.
She said it.
So, or Liesl has messaged me before and be like, what do you think? No. We're not doing that. We're not. No, we are worth more. Everybody in this room has built businesses and we are worth more. So
Correct.
I am, again, like I said, so thankful for you. And I will advocate for you to the end of time. As you guys can see, this entire setup is her, the lights, camera, action. So while you're the lady behind the scenes, so much of what you produce it keeps on giving to people.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you for coming on.
It's awesome.
Emily actually introduced me to Becca Gillis, who is our vision board expert. And I actually just met Becca yesterday. And as soon as I met Becca, she walks up to me, and I'm an empath. I feel energies. She walks up to me and she gave me a big hug and she was like, can we pray together? And I was like, absolutely. She goes, I know you're a woman of faith too. And sometimes I worry about how the world sees us, kind of how Mallory was saying when she wrote her book. Like, I'm not sure how the world's going to perceive us because as influencers, everybody thinks we're vain and we take pictures for a living. They don't see all of the hard work behind the scenes. We make it look easy. There's just so many things that get left out of the big picture. And so for Becca to say, I know that you're a woman of faith. I've never met her in my life. We've only talked on the phone and via text messages. This woman lives in Sacramento. But for her to be able to see that from me lets me know that she is somebody who has a vision and such a pure heart, and that I'm also doing the Lord's work out here. But we all are doing the Lord's work. Motherhood is the Lord's work, Lord. But I want to bring Emily up because when she started to tell me how she found Becca, I was like, oh my gosh, well, we should totally have her as part of the live podcast experience, because I think it'll be such a fun activation and way for all of us to reframe how we're thinking about our businesses and our visions for our life. So I want to bring Emily up to tell you guys more about her, and then bring up Becca so she can share with you her incredible story. But yeah, when you called me, I was like, she is absolutely got it. She has to be a part of this.
Yes.
100%.
I feel like many of the women in this room who I've seen, I was just minding my own business on Instagram, scrolling, and saw an article from People magazine. And I build the internet. I've spent the last 10 years building the internet, and I'm so fascinated by like the coolest stories of how people use the internet for connectivity. And this story caught my attention, which was Becca had a vision board experience that she had planned, and she moved to a new city and she wanted to have community and meet friends and women friends. And so she put this whole event together, and it resonated with me because when I first had my first child, I'm like, well, there's no Tinder for moms. Like, how do you pick up a mom to be a mom? My kid's too young to like meet her own friends. So I threw a kid's Christmas party, and this was my 10th year doing it for my neighborhood. Like, this is how I met all of the kids that are now like best friends with my children. Their moms are my friends. And that's what she did. She threw this party and no one came. her first party. So she then went to TikTok and she has built this community online. And this story was about her kind of pivoting and sharing her story on the internet. And it just went completely viral. And I found out I was one of like 10,000 people that DM'd her to be like, hey, this is amazing that you did this. And I'm so proud of you. And I would love to take your vision off the internet and do it in real life. And I thought, how cool would it be, which thank you for helping me do this, to build a community of women who Becca can share her story with. And I think, through your platform and what we're able to do with Google Fiber can make it even bigger. But I'm excited for her to share her story and then for everyone to get a little bit of her philosophy on why vision boards are so powerful. So we can bring Becca.
Come on up, Becca. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. Again, I'm grateful that you traveled all this way because you didn't have to. Welcome to Music City.
Thank you so much. I was sitting here thinking, and I'm like, how do you explain the feeling in this room to a man? Like, how do you do it?
They're not lucky enough to experience this joy.
Period.
But Becca, I want to talk about your story and what even made you want to do a vision board, because a lot of us wait until December or January to start reframing our lives. So what made you want to host this vision board party? Did you already have this business idea? What did it look like?
Yeah, so it didn't really start with any business. Emily kind of talked about it a little bit, but it was mostly just that craving to connect with women in my community, with the girls local to me. I had moved to a new city. It's hard in your 30s, and I just decided to host a vision board party because I think that attracts the type of women that I want in my life. And so I just did it. I invited 30 women that I had just met in passing at different points. And some of them I barely even knew, but I'm like, I could see a relationship happening with that. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do it. Vision boards have truly changed my life and I wanted to share that with others. So it just felt very natural to me.
Do you typically do your vision boards around the New Year time, or is it something you modify all year long?
Both. So yes, I love the New Year energy of a vision board, but I think it's so important and intentional to also do quarterly and to do like checkups. I think it's a similar thing to 5-year goals versus like 1 week goals. Like you have to do those 1 week goals to get to that 5-year goal. So
So you hosted the vision board party and you invited 30 women and they all started coming up with a reason why they couldn't come. And then you shared this vulnerable moment on TikTok. She's a TikTok girly. From my TikTok girlies.
Shout out.
I know, right, girl? I can't figure it out. I'm like, look, that's y'all's thing. But she's a TikTok girly and she posted this very vulnerable, transparent video on TikTok. Can you walk us through the entire experience? Because she and I talked about it upstairs a little bit, but it's even more interesting when you tell it.
Yeah. So she was asking me, she's like, what was on your mind? I was like, honestly, nothing. It was so natural for me to post on TikTok, crying on the internet, because for me, TikTok has always been like this lawless land, if you will, my online personal diary. And nobody's ever going to see it. This is just for me. Like, nobody's judging. It's fine. I just didn't expect so many people to see it this time.
Except everybody.
Yeah, except for everyone.
Viral.
Yeah. So I actually posted and ghosted, and I remember sitting there at home making my vision board, and I was getting a lot of followers on Instagram. I was like, I haven't even posted for a few days. That's weird. Whatever. And I didn't think about it, and then it dawned on me. I'm like, I posted a video of me crying on the internet earlier today. Let me go check that out because I have notifications off. I don't got time to see all of them. And sure enough, it was going super viral, like tens of thousands of comments of women who just like resonated with it so deeply and they had experienced something similar. And I felt so seen. I felt so understood. And just like not alone, and I think that's kind of the whole point of all of it,
Yeah. No, I love that you said that you use TikTok as a diary, because a lot of times my friend Ashley Houston, she and I have these conversations when we're both in the shower. I know it sounds creepy, but we both got kids and usually I'm on speakerphone and she is too in the shower, and she's a big TikTok-y girl. Why am I calling it TikTok-y?
TikTok-y. It works. It works.
So I'm trying to get some advice from Ashley, and Ashley's like, just post it. Nobody cares. And she's like, but the thing is, when no one cares is when you go viral.
When
it's
everyone
like
cares.
when everybody cares and you get the big picture. Yeah. But I do think it's still cool that you were able to share that vulnerable moment and it turned into something even larger than you could have even imagined.
Totally.
So did you have the vision for it to be what it turned out to be?
No, it was honestly so crazy because my mom has always said, if you can't find it, go create it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's always stuck with me. And that's what I was trying to do. And she told me, like, why don't you do a virtual vision board workshop? And why don't you do this? And I'm like, okay, whatever. Who would come? Mm-hmm. And then it turns out, again, like the tens of thousands of comments were women who had the same idea. And they're like, I want to come. I want to show up for you. This is something I need in my life. I would have loved this event. And so I had no idea it was going to turn into all that. And honestly, people can be so mean on the internet sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I thought people would probably be mean about me crying on the internet because people in my life in the past have said to me like, oh, it's so lame to be vulnerable, like on the internet. Like, are you doing this for attention? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's just about being able to relate to other people and resonate with other people. Mm-hmm. And again, like the feeling of not being alone. So to see so many people want to do this virtual vision board party, and we ended up doing it, and it created group chats and gatherings and so much community, and it eventually birthed my brand Own Your Sparkle too.
Yeah. Congratulations on Own Your Sparkle. But also, I want to go back to something that you've said a couple of times is how hard it is to find friends as a 30-something. And even Emily, how hard it is to find mom friends. It can be hard to find your community. And as long as we've all been here, we've been here 30-something years, y'all. I know it's not 110, but we ought to know how to find friends by now. And so it is interesting that we still struggle with being relatable or finding people who are going to show up for us in that way. So how did you go about inviting these 30 people? What made you, I mean, you said you met some of them and then you knew some of them like long term, but what gave you the courage to say, I'm going to do this and invite people, whether they come or not? And, you know, what did that look like to foster those relationships? Yeah,
I think initially it came from a place of like, honestly, desperation. I was so sad. I was so lonely. I was so discouraged in my own life and dealing with anxiety and depression. And I just desperately needed that community and those women. And that's kind of where it came from. And honestly, I just would, anywhere I go, I'd make sure I would start conversation with someone, talk to someone, let them know who I am, just try to like make that connection. And so that's kind of how that started.
Yeah. I think people should teach that. I think being a friend to somebody should be a skill set that we all learn early on. I definitely teach it to my daughter. I mean, she's 3 and I tell her to greet everybody. I tell her to compliment people. Cute. And she does. Rain will walk up to you and say hello. And as Shayna says, Shayna's got 3 boys. She can hang with the boys. But she knows how to make a friend with a squirrel if need be. But also, when you were telling me your story upstairs, that's why I encourage people in the room, don't sit with who you came with, because Becca's our visionary that's really driving this story for us of having a vision, having new friends, allowing other people to have a seat at your table. And I have to give you your flowers for that, because it's a very vulnerable place to be able to tell your story on the internet, for it to go viral when you walked away from it. And then she ended up in People magazine and lots of other magazines too. So where's that clap for you again? Now you're here.
Thank you.
So what's your greater mission as your platform continues to grow?
I think for me, it's always been for people to feel like they belong. And at a young age, I lost a friend to suicide, and it greatly impacted me. You said we would all cry. I'm not going to cry, but it's okay. We can all be vulnerable. But yeah, it greatly impacted me, and I never realized it would become like my life's mission, is to make people feel loved, seen, like they belong. And back in 2016, I started passing out these cards that say things like, you are exactly where you need to be right here, right now. You are beautiful. You are loved. You are enough. And I've passed out tens of thousands of those cards to just strangers on the street. Talk about exposure therapy. But yeah, I've passed these out, and I've seen the joy and the impact it has brought into so many people's life. I think we need to be that light to so many people. And I'll never forget this one time this girl came and she threw her arms around me after I gave her the card, and she's crying and she goes, "You have no idea that it was the 1-year anniversary of my attempted suicide." Oh. So I think that's my overall mission. And also I read an article recently that said women struggle with isolation the most. And I just thought that was so crazy, because if we're all struggling with isolation, how are we not all like curing it together? Why?
Where's the motivation?
Yeah. Why are we not doing it together? And so I just want women to know that they are safe to step out of their comfort zone. They are supported when they are dreaming of those big goals, and that we can all come together and just support each other and love each other. And yeah, we're just never alone. So.
Yeah. And sometimes it's easier said than done, because we are busy and life is happening, and we have 4 kids like Mallory and Emily. But, I always tell people, just call me. I mean, the Sarahs over here at this table, they know, don't send me a text message, just call me. But I think, again, being intentional about our connectivity and using Google Fiber for connectivity.
Shout out Google Fiber.
is how you do it.
Yeah.
But also, I just love that you're spreading this kind of joy in the world. And I was telling her this upstairs, but I'm going to share it with you guys, because I'm sure you all have seen it on social media, where there's this post that always says, if you're not stepping into your calling, then you're not doing what God told you to do. So people don't get to feel God's purpose for your life. And so I told Becca, I was like, you're absolutely doing God's purpose. Like, what if she never hosted the vision board party? What if Mallory never created Living Fully? What if she was never vulnerable enough to tell her story? What if Devin never came on the podcast? I mean, she's also lost a parent. And so we're both sitting there on the couch sharing. I think our parents died within a year of each other. Like, what if we never did that episode to share what that looked like? What if Ashley's like not sharing everything with dealing with a preteen daughter? What if Nikki, who, is trying to figure out her next steps for her incredible career ahead of her, never tells that story? And what if we never have the vision to make it happen, to make it come into fruition? So I just think about all these things, and I am so grateful to have you here to lead the vision board, the portion of our event. They no longer have to listen to me talk unless they want to go back.
I love listening to you talk. You're amazing.
You're amazing. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful again that you travel. And she brought new friends. So I got to meet some of her new friends too. So new friends. But that concludes the Sweet House Podcast season finale episode. I want you guys... Thank you guys. I want you guys to please stay. I know we're running a little overtime at time, quick. But Becca is going to work her magic. She worked her magic on the internet all the way from Sacramento, California to people all over the world. And People magazine picked it up, and so many other magazines picked it up and ran with it. She is worth all of our time today. So you guys, I'm going to give her the floor, let you take over. I'm going to go drink some seltzer water and let this baby burp.
As you should.
But you guys go follow the Sweet House Podcast on every platform where you get your podcasts. Also, I want to give a special thanks to Google Fiber for sponsoring this episode. I want to thank Glam Squad for doing makeup today. I have a code for Glam Squad. I'll send it out to all of you guys. I also want to thank Dolly Wines for doing the gift bags today. I interviewed Dolly in November, and her team came through with a special gift bag for you guys. And we are all channeling our inner Dolly daily. So I had to make sure that she was a part of this event in some way. Tarte Cosmetics, I will tell you guys, they also sponsored gifts for you all's gift bags. And the story behind that is 2% of Black women become CMOs or heads of global marketing. And so when Tarte Cosmetics came to Nashville last year, I got to meet their head of global marketing, Donna, and she's a fellow Black woman in marketing. And I've never had a mentor in marketing because I've always been at the cusp of it. It's Mallory says, I've been running things. And so I've never had a mentor in marketing until I met Donna. And I have been to New York twice this past year, and they have wined and dined me when I've been there because Donna understands what it's like to be an entrepreneur and also a Black woman in corporate, specifically corporate marketing. So when I called on them to give you guys some of my favorite Tarte products, they were like, absolutely. I mean, we wish we could be there. But so everything that you guys are getting today, down to Mallory's book, has been very thought out. Again, when you come to the Sweet House, anybody who's been to my house knows that this is what you get. This is the Sweet House. It is my real life. So I just want to share that with you all. And I'm so grateful that you came to the Sweet House to celebrate the season finale. And Becca, I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah.